Welcome to Chapter 1, where I read from a vampire book that I have never read from before. So this is going to be a surprise for me and all of us. Today's entry is a book by a friend of mine named Chloe Hammond, who is coming to us all the way from Wales today. So thank you, Chloe, very much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel very privileged.
Excellent. Oh, very privileged. All right. So, a little bit of backstory here. Chloe and I met in Wales at the International Vampire Film and Arts Festival, where I was showing Lucy X Mina in the film festival portion of it. And Chloe was there receiving a Golden Stake Award for her short stories. And so I was just like, oh, damn, well, Chloe must be a great writer. So my wife and I bought her book and got it signed and everything. Thank you for that, Chloe. And I have to admit, when I bought this from you, I was very excited to save it until just this moment, because I was looking forward to doing this with you on my show. So I have not read this yet. And this is Darkly Dreaming, which is part of the Darkly vampire series. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, is there anything that we should know before we get started here?
My vampires aren't the traditional vampires. They're not supernatural as such. It's more the concept that vampirism is a virus, very infectious virus, and that infects the body and causes the DNA to change completely. So, yeah, I'm not going to tell you anymore because I don't want to ruin it for you. But let go of the idea of only able to go out at night and things like that. These are a far more dangerous variety of vampire.
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right then. So in discussing it with Chloe beforehand, I'm going to be reading the prologue, and then I'm actually going to jump ahead to chapter 3 because Chloe let me know that the vampiric stuff really gets going in chapter 3. So I figured that might be a little more fun for us to read and is more relevant to the channel. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll be skipping ahead just a little bit. While I'm reading this, if at any point I start, if I get a pronunciation wrong or something like that, feel free to correct me. That's totally fine. If I'm reading a character and it is very different from the way that it's supposed to be read, let me know and I'll make the adjustment for it. And just because I'm American, I don't know if the characters in this book are supposed to have a Welsh accent or an English accent or anything like that. I will not even attempt that. I don't want to insult you with that. So these are suddenly very American characters, Chloe. I'm sorry about that, but
No problem. They can have changed continent. That's fine.
Okay, excellent. Well, in that case, let us go ahead and read the prologue from Darkly Dreaming by Chloe Hammond. Susanna felt the penis in her mouth twitch. Excellent. So that's where we're starting, everybody. That is fantastic. All right. Susanna felt the penis in her mouth twitch as she twirled her tongue around the tip. At last, she was getting neckache, and the handbrake was digging into her ribs. Deft and practiced, she sped up her sucking and was relieved to hear the grunt of release from above her. She discreetly spat his pleasure into the tissue she had been holding ready in her left hand. She took a swig of mouthwash from the travel-sized bottle in her handbag, swilled her mouth out, and opened the passenger door to spit neatly beside the car. She wiped her fingers on a perfumed wet wipe and pulled the passenger mirror down to repair her subtle nude lipstick, finishing with a blot of gloss in the center. She cast her eyes critically over the rest of her face and then used a shellacked nail in Parisian pink to remove the slight smudge of eye makeup under one eye. Susanna didn't use cheap makeup or exert herself, so she rarely suffered smudges, but kept a close eye just in case. She used small, regular doses of Botox between her brows and at the sides of her eyes and nose as a preventative, and had minuscule amounts of filler injected into her lower lip to make her pretty mouth that much more kissable. She took care to ensure that while her face may have difficulty scowling, a tantalizing smile or sultry pout was only enhanced. She had neat, HD brows stuck in place, and although she would never wear anything as crass as false eyelashes, she had a few semi-permanent flares accenting the corner of each eye, adding a cat-like tilt to her naturally rather bland brown eyes. Susanna worried that dates might mistakenly read softness in her muddy brown eyes, so she usually wore subtle icy blue contacts that more accurately reflected her calculating nature. Tonight she hadn't been able to wear them because she had a slight irritation in one eye, so she'd carefully adapted her makeup to make her natural eye color look as rich as possible. Her appearance was cultivated to look fresh and pretty in a way that only very rich women could afford. It took a lot of time and very expensive products to look so dewy and natural. Susanna only had one ambition in life: to get married to someone very, very rich. It was what she felt she deserved. Her mother had skillfully married her rich stepfather and then been able to send her to expensive boarding schools so she could learn how to entice and entrap such a man for herself. Her future contained sun-kissed beaches, champagne-soaked skiing holidays, and 2 perfect children raised by nannies in private schools. She just needed the perfect husband to finish the picture. He had to be handsome, ambitious, dim, and completely enthralled to her. This man she had just sucked off was not him. He had, however, treated her to a perfectly lovely evening, and so she had known that payment would be expected. Susanna prided herself in her ability to judge a situation and know how to handle the men she dated. She would leave them pleasantly satisfied with her company, but under no illusions that she wanted to see them again. She knew exactly the type of man she would marry, and at 26 was only just feeling the first stirrings of concern that her job in PR had still not brought her into contact with the perfect candidate. Tonight's date was not interested enough in her. He had hardly bothered bragging at all. He continually talked about the benevolent fund his father had entrusted to his care. They met when he hired her to promote a fundraising event, but she'd assumed it was a time filler until he could take over the reins from his father. When she realized his enthusiasm was earnest and not just affectation, she had lost interest as quickly as dousing a candle flame. Ethical concerns are very dangerous to a decent income and lifestyle. She remained coolly charming, and after dinner, once they were in his Land Rover, which she realized he drove from necessity rather than just effect, she suggested a slight detour to the local beauty spot. Once they'd pulled over, she removed her essentials from her handbag in preparation, then reached over and unzipped his trousers. The fact he still wasn't fully erect as she'd taken him into her mouth had been further reassurance that he was only Mr. Right now, nothing more. An efficient blowjob would leave him satisfied and prevent him badgering her for anything else. Susanna withheld full intercourse until the 9th or 10th date. Consequently, she'd only ever gone all the way with 2 men, both of whom had bitterly disappointed her by subsequently exposing their weaknesses, one of them for gambling, the other for using cocaine. Luckily, their addictions had revealed themselves before she had actually married either of the fiancés. And so the hunt continued. A friend had recently suggested she should become a high-class escort and earn her own fortune since she expressed no desire to feel love in return. Susanna had scoffed at the suggestion, then discreetly removed the girl from her contact list. Susanna's friendships were just opportunities to socialize and meet appropriate men. She did not share intimacies, although she collected those which could come in handy later and stored them like little trinkets to use as careful currency to her own advantage. An escort has a shelf life, in the way a wife doesn't. As long as she was the mother of his children, even if her husband eventually traded her in for a younger model, he would still be financially responsible for her. An escort could never marry into her social circles. Everyone knew each other, and her past would soon be exposed. Her polite blowjobs were expected payment to a man who had bought her oysters and champagne and tickets to the opera, but full intercourse, although pursued, would lead to the loss of all respect, and this disintegration of reputation would spread. She had to affect to be utterly distraught following the end of her 2 engagements, thus ensuring everyone knew she was the wronged party, and hence lessening the devaluing effect of 2 failed attempts. After a final squirt of Dior on her throat to cover up the slightly too musky scent that had transferred from him to her, she looked over at her date with a bright smile that did not reach her eyes. "Okay, out you get," he said. "What?" Susanna blinked at him, owlish in her surprise. "You can walk from here." I... Susanna was dumbfounded. She had never misjudged a situation this badly before. Normally her dates were so happy she had given them a blowjob they hadn't had to beg for, they were more than happy to run her home afterwards, while she chattered brightly about something inconsequential. She collected useless snippets to pepper and ease any silence. She was wearing her Louboutins? Louboutins? Okay. So I don't know anything about fashion. I apologize, Chloe.
I've never worn any personally, but I've heard they're very nice.
That's right. That's what this. It's all novels are fantasy. That's fine. I haven't either. And they would be destroyed if she had to walk any distance in them. She looked at her date in disbelief. This was the height of bad manners on his part. He met her startled gaze with calm defiance. He was laughing at her, and the realization made hot fury flood through her. Without another word, she flung his car door open and strode out, slamming the door with a backward glance. She stalked across the car park as he wheel-spun away with an unnecessary burst of engine revving. "What a dick," she muttered. Once he had driven off, she realized it was very dark. The parking area was not lit, and although it was a clear night with a bright 3/4 moon, there were tall trees around 3 sides. This was why she chose to bring men here when she wanted to dispatch her obligation quickly. She felt vulnerable and alone. She burrowed in her mulberry for her iPhone. The light from the screen was reassuring, but the lack of a reception bar filled her anew with rage. Her heels were 4 inches high, and the tarmac was potholed and strewn with gravel and pebbles. Tottering carefully along with the screen light on her phone, offering enough of a glow to avoid the worst of the rubble on the road, she picked her way across the car park toward the main road. "Can I help?" The woman had appeared suddenly at her shoulder, making Susanna squeak with fright. Despite the darkness, Susanna found she could see her quite clearly. The woman seemed luminescent in the phone's feeble glow. "Oh," she said, forgetting why she needed help. "Ah," she gasped, and gazing at the stranger's beautiful face. Susanna had never dallied with other teenage girls at school. She couldn't see the point. She never got girl crushes or appreciated the curve of another woman's breast. Her relationship with other women was either fiercely competitive if they were attractive, or utterly dismissive if they weren't. Now, though, she was entranced, wrapped in warmth, every limb languid and relaxed. She wasn't aware enough to realize she had stopped thinking and instead was just feeling bliss. The other woman smiled, and her plump lips curled back to reveal small, spiked teeth, which lengthened as Susanna gazed at her. Somewhere, very deep within, a small, primitive part of Susanna recognized a predator and set up a tattoo of alarm. But clouds of pleasure and relaxation quickly smothered the alarm before it did more than raise her heart rate for a beat or two. The beautiful brunette reached out and stroked a finger down Susanna's cheek, and she was too enthralled to notice the hooked fingernail extending into a talon. Susanna leant forward into the other woman's embrace. She was too lost to be aware as the bewitching beauty neatly slit the artery in her throat and nuzzled into her neck to feed. Ooh, Chloe, that is some great vampire business right there. Slit the artery in her throat and nuzzled into her neck to feed. Oh my God, that's good stuff. Well, so, glad we didn't get too attached to that character. That's a proper prologue there. That's fantastic. Okay, so jumping ahead to chapter 3, without sort of spoiling what the story is, can you just set up for us who are the characters that we're about to join up with here?
So we're about to meet Ray, who is the main character. She's a dowdy woman in her 40s who's neurodivergent, but not diagnosed. But she's always kind of socially awkward, slightly out of the loop, and very aware of that. Um, and she's got a best friend called Layla, who she adores. They've been best friends since university, and whereas Ray is sort of quiet and will sort of watch what's going on, doesn't like leap in there saying hello to everybody. Layla's the opposite. She's the extrovert. She's the one who runs around making friends with everybody. And between them, they've always been this little like oddball team that works really well together as a friendship. However, while they've been married, there's been some distance between each other just because the men didn't like each other, blah, blah, blah. You know what? His life gets in the way.
Gotcha.
Then they both ended up divorced in different circumstances I won't go into. Both of them are reeling a bit and they've moved back in together. Um, and it's all felt a little bit strange because on the one hand they're like, woohoo, let's pick up life where we left it when we were in our early 20s before we got married and have all that fun stuff again. And on the other hand, they're like, but we're older now. And so Ray just isn't doing terribly well at leaving her husband. She knows she needs to, but she keeps ending up back in bed with him. So Lady got cross with it and they've decided, let's just go on holiday to France and just totally leave all of it behind. They'd done a hitchhiking down France after university, and they decided they would redo this journey, but like the more luxurious side of it, staying in hotels, not
Lovely.
tents, that sort of thing.
Lovely.
And then they decided to meet up. They were going to travel down from France to the Loire Valley, a little town called Tours, and then they were meeting their friends from uni who they'd all sort of hung out as a bigger group there, but the one of their friends couldn't come and the other one bought a friend they don't know, which is predictably not gone so well because this friend doesn't know any of the stories, wants to rule the night with her own stories about people nobody knows, and she's just caused a bit of bad feeling, and then has got very, very drunk and had to be carried home from the party along with one of the other friends. So they're in a hotel. They've got the two friends that weren't well enough to travel back with the rest of them, and they're a bit annoyed. So we're joining Ray and Layla now as they're going for dinner and just sort of trying to make sense of everything that's happened in the last 24 hours.
Okay, that is an excellent catch up. Also feels very real. Like I'm like, yeah, I feel like maybe I've been in that situation once or twice. Not necessarily the social situation, not necessarily divorced and moved back in with my childhood friend, but
Yeah.
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 So chapter 3, and also something that I've noticed that you've been doing here, just in flipping through pages, is that you tend to put like a character name and then a portion of the chapter, and then you switch over to a different character name.
Yeah. I tell the story from the two viewpoints between Ray and Layla's viewpoints so that you get the slightly different slants according whether you're getting it from Ray, who's quite introverted, or Layla, who's the fun seeker, the mischievous one. So you get a slightly different slant on things from the two of them.
Excellent. Okay, so chapter 3, we are starting with Ray. Layla and I take our time over dinner, retelling last night's adventures, filling each other in on the bits we missed, weaving our story of the party from the colorful strands of the night's events. It is dark by the time we get back to the hotel. The night porter puffs, but otherwise ignores us, so we scuttle guiltily past, aware that the days of being able to charm middle-aged foreign men with our drunken antics seem to be over. Before I go to our room, I pop in to check on Melanie and Liz one last time. I notice guiltily that in my rush to get downstairs to apologize to the freaky people outside earlier, I didn't lock their door. Their lights are off, so there is only the light from the hallway behind me to illuminate the room as I walk toward Lizzie. I quickly scan the room to see if anything has been moved while we were out, looking for evidence that either of them has been up and about. The curtains have been drawn, but not properly, so I can see the window is still open a crack. Liz's covers are off her again, and she is lying on her back. At first I take this as a good sign, but there's something slack about her face that causes my heart to tug and stomach to freeze, even before my conscious mind has absorbed the information that she is dead. I know most people would scream now, but I don't scream when I'm really scared. I freeze. My hand covers my mouth, and my eyes feel like they are popping out of my head. My other arm wraps around my waist, holding myself together. Layla is standing behind me in the doorway. Seeing me freeze, she kicks the door closed and flicks the lights on. "What?" she hisses. She has the same instinct to secrecy as me. Until we've assessed a crisis and decided on our action, we go quiet. As the fluorescent light hums and flickers and finally snaps on, Melanie, face twisted beyond all recognition, rises shrieking from her bed and flies at Layla, latching onto her and burying her face into Layla's neck. For an instant, I think that she's been terrified by whatever has happened to Lizzie, but Layla is screaming and gurgling and stumbling around trying to push her off. I realize that she is tearing at the side of Layla's throat with her teeth. For an agonizing moment, I am transfixed in horror and terror until, in slow motion, I charge across the room as my friend falls to her knees. I seem to grow as I move, as the decision for fight, not flight, fills me. I grab Melanie's hair at the scruff of the neck and wrap it around my wrist. With my other hand, I grip her face under the chin and rip it away from Layla's neck. As I spin her up and away from Layla, she slides her chin, slippery with Layla's blood, lower in my grip and sinks her teeth into the pad of flesh at the base of my thumb. I smash the side of her face into the wall and then smear it across over to the window, pulling my hand away from her mouth and throwing my weight into her back so I am behind her and pushing as she reaches the window frame. The window flies further open under our weight and her top half tips out. I almost topple with her, but pulling back in time, without even thinking, I jerk back and down, snatch up her feet, and flip her up and out of the window, turning my back quickly so I won't have to watch her fall. Bent double and panting, my eyes lock with Layla's where she lies on the floor. Wordlessly I stand, close the window, and help her up. Slipping my arm under her shoulder, I support her out of the room, pulling the door closed behind me. Damn. What the fuck do we do now? I gasp as I drag her into our room. She is staggering, barely able to walk. I am talking to myself. I don't expect an answer. All I can think is, I've just killed someone. I've just killed someone. Round and round in my head. The vision of Melanie's feet flipping out through the window is all I can think about. I know Layla is injured and I need to get her help, but I seem stuck and disconnected. Like I'm watching myself play a role in a drama from 1,000 miles away. Picking up the phone is beyond me. Nothing. You do nothing, says a voice from behind me. I look over my shoulder and see the sinister man from the party, the one I'd seen outside the hotel this morning. I realize it wasn't the alcohol that made him look so odd yesterday. His features really are freakishly distorted. He has come into the room behind us and stands in front of the closed door with his arms folded. He makes no attempt to help me. I open my mouth to scream, but no sound comes out. It's a shame you had to come back so early. We hoped to have this all sorted out before you returned. Your friend is fine. A little fall like that won't hurt her now. Elaine has taken her to safety. It is sad that the other one didn't make it, but some people don't. It cannot be helped. We will make it look like an accident. He speaks in strangely soothing tones. You don't have to worry about anything now. You are about to pass out, and we need to make sure no one comes near you. As he speaks, he moves to stand in front of us. I realize my hand is throbbing unreasonably where Melanie had bitten me. It feels like fire is moving slowly up my arm. My legs are like jelly, and my eyes have become unbearably heavy. I heft Layla over her bed and drop her onto it. She needs a doctor, I slur, swaying. I think Melanie has rabies. It is the only thing I can think of that would make sense of her behavior, and pets need rabies jabs to come from France to the UK, so it must be a problem, or so my soggy thought process insists. No, the creepy man says firmly. You can't go anywhere for 24 hours. You're about to metamorphose, like a butterfly. Once that is over, we will take you away. You need to sleep now. Everything will be different when you wake up. Sleep now. I want to get Layla help. I want to alert someone that Lizzie is dead. Who is this man in our room telling me to sleep while my friend is so ill and I've just killed someone? But I have no choice. My body gives up, and I sleep a deep, dark sleep. My eyes open, and I stare into darkness. For a moment, everything seems normal apart from the noise. Slowly, I realize that the loudness that woke me is just the normal sounds of the hotel. But it seems like someone has turned up the volume. The lift sounds like an express train. Laughter in the street 4 floors below sounds like someone is shrieking in my ear. I become aware that the room is pitch black. There is no light edging the door or window, but I can still see quite clearly, like I'm in a black and white film. Everything clear, but no color. My skin feels like someone has taken the top layer off. The cheap polyester sheet over me feels like lots of thick, itchy wool blankets. It's odd. My feet seem further down the bed than usual. What the fuck did I drink last night? Did some bastard spike me? I look towards Layla, whose face is turned toward me on her pillow. Her eyes are wide open, staring straight into mine. My stomach freezes, and a hand clamps icy fingers around my heart as I gaze into the eyes screaming opposite me. Then she blinks and slowly focuses on me. What have you done to your eyes? Her voice is silky and fluid like warm melted butter. What have I done? Yours are freaky as hell, I shoot back. Only my voice is buttery too, so it comes out sounding like a caress. What's with the Cadbury bunny voice? Layla asks. We must have been spiked. I feel really odd. I reach over to the lamp on the bedside table between our twin beds and flick the light on. Pain ricochets through me. My eyes feel like they're burning. I clamp my hands over my face and screw my eyes closed. After a couple of seconds, the pain abates, and I so slowly unscrunch my eyes, then allow the light to sift in through gaps between my fingers. My eyes adjust, and at last I feel it's safe to take my hands from my face. I look over at Layla. She's still squinting through her fingers. She lowers her hands slowly, and I stare hard at her face. She looks like a cartoonish, overly perfect version of herself. Your eyes look like pebbles, I tell her, like the most exquisite quartz pebbles at the bottom of a stream. Yours look like a lioness's, like sunlight on water, she sighs, leaning in closer. You look like you've been airbrushed. She blinks and sits back, staring at my face dreamily, and turned into an avatar of you. It's freaky. I don't know what they gave us, but it's some crazy shit, man. She may have been trying to frown and appear horrified, but she just seems girlishly perturbed, with only the faintest line forming between her brows and her plump, pink, pillowy lips puckering prettily into a little pout. God, yeah. That's exactly what you look like. I'm entranced, gazing at her. Ah, you're awake. The sinister man slides back into our room. His voice sounds like velvet, but his presence brings my memories from the night flooding back, sickening me. So, he says quietly, with a slight frown, you're pretty ones. He contemplates us for a moment. What have you given us, you fucking freaky bastard, Layla coos. You never know how the process will affect, he continues, as if Layla hasn't spoken. That friend of yours, Melanie, she's an ugly, vicious little bitch. Elaine's had a terrible time with her. Is she always so vile? I just stare at him. One part of me is trying to comprehend what he's saying. Process? Effect? Melanie's still alive? The other part is entranced by him. How could I have ever thought he was creepy? He is beautiful. Gilded bronze like Icarus as he flew so close to the sun. What have you done to us? Layla repeats. Come on, he says brusquely. You've had time to adapt to the worst of the sensory overload now. We need to get you out of here while it's dark. As he says it, I realize he's right. The background noises that had seemed so loud just minutes before have faded. I realize I can still hear each separate sound just as clearly, but they don't feel so overwhelming anymore. We need to make sure no one sees the change, he continues, as if he's discussing holiday travel plans. Your belongings are gone, and Simon has paid your bill. You need to walk out of here looking happy, so if anyone checks the CCTV, they'll see you leaving of your own accord with new friends. Do not touch anything or anyone. There's a lot you don't know yet. You're incredibly dangerous now, and unless you want a massacre on your hands, you'll do as you're told. But, I start. No discussion. There isn't time. I will explain once we're safe. He stares at me. His eyes are the bright, hard green of a perfect emerald. His look brooks no question and no disagreement. I stand up and wobble, as if I'm teetering on towering stiletto heels. I am a lot taller than I used to be, and my center of gravity has shifted. I take a step, and it feels like my legs are stretching forever. The man makes no attempt to steady me as I totter and sway. What have you done to us? Layla hasn't budged, and is staring at me in appalled horror. I know this isn't something we've taken now. What are we? I whisper. Vampires, he says simply. I instantly wish I hadn't asked. I don't want this to be real. He looks at me coldly, beautifully, with his glittering eyes. I should think he's crazy. I should think the drugs have made me trip out. But I know with utter certainty he's telling the truth. I can feel it in my newly elongated bones. He chivies us out of the hotel room. Whenever Layla and I move closer together as we stagger, uncoordinated and stumbling, down the hotel's dazzlingly bright and seemingly never-ending corridors, he snaps at us not to touch each other. The hotel seems unrecognizable. There's so many details I hadn't even seen before, and so many more colors. It would be easy to lose myself by drifting into a trance as I stare around me, but the man chides us along. The air has been infused with the most delicious scent, under the chemical stench of bleach and air freshener, perfumes and shampoos. It's irresistible, and stirs a ravenous hunger within the depths of me. It draws me toward bedroom doors, inhaling deeply. Out, he hisses, now. We are ushered into the back of the car by the beautiful man who then slides into the frontal passenger seat. Another dark-haired man is already in the driving seat, his gloved hands clasping the steering wheel. I am... Guillaume, thank you. I was like, there are a lot of L's and vowels here. I am Guillaume, the golden man tells us, as the car pulls away from the front of the hotel. As he speaks, I realize he is speaking French, and that I have no problem understanding him. My mind is processing what he says far more quickly than my usual schoolgirl French would have allowed. I can understand him as well as if he were speaking English. He does not turn around to look at us as he continues in a low voice, barely above the rustle of leaves in a breeze, forcing us to lean forward and listen closely to make sure we catch every word. Sitting behind the driver, I can see Guillaume's impassive profile, but he makes no attempt to turn his head to make eye contact with me. No attempt to reassure me. This is Simon, he indicates the driver with his head. I am the head of this pride of vampires, he explains. I can only apologize again for what has happened. We usually do not spread. Indeed, there is a rule within the pride that we do not. However, one of the females, Patrice, felt she knew better and let one change a female named Susanna. Then Patrice let Susanna hunt alone, and the next thing we knew, we had a group of new ones. I told her they were her responsibility to keep under control. He sighs. I should have known better. He coughs a little and rubs his fingers over his chin and throat. I realize that although he appears calm to the point of disinterest on the surface, he is feeling something else. Whether it is guilt or anger, I'm not sure. Anyway, they slipped away from her last night, and by the time she told me what had happened, they had wrought havoc. We would normally have come for you sooner, but we had several bodies to dispose of. A rumor of bad drugs to start, officials to bribe, and some new ones to take to a safe place for the metamorphosis. We weren't sure how many, if any of you, had been infected. It took us a while to find you, and then your friend gave us quite a chase. She's not our friend, I mutter, irritatingly silkily and in French, spoken without effort. I want to be bad-tempered and ungracious, but I no longer seem to be able to be anything other than voluptuously appealing. Guillaume continues as if I haven't spoken. It is a shame we didn't find her a little sooner. We could have ended all this before you became involved. But we've caught her now, and she's on her way to the farm, too. Once we're all there, I can decide what to do about you all. His blasé dismissal of our nightmarish new existence stuns me. He turns and mutters to Simon, speaking too quickly for me to catch what he says. I lean back in my seat, narrow-eyed and contemplative. Ooh, Chloe! That is a lot of fun. Chapter 3 does go on a bit more, but I'm going to stop there just because I'm so excited to start asking you questions. And I feel like we've got a good flavor of it. Wow, that's great stuff. It's funny. I think it's a prejudice of mine when it comes to vampire stories, where when somebody says, "Oh, it's not supernatural, it's viral," I guess I fall into that camp of like, oh, so this is a science fiction story. This is about contagion. This is about outbreak. And for some reason, my mind always just goes to like sort of bestial vampires who become like some, manifestation of the virus or something like that. And that is not what you have done here at all. Like this feels like the very romantic, seductive, dangerous, like all the trappings that I love from a vampire story. And I don't miss the supernatural element of it at all. And that is great. And I love your description. I love your wording, and I love the I love the fact that here I read the prologue and I was like, well, poor Susanna, we hardly knew you. And then here in this chapter we find out like, oh no, Susanna's still around.
Trouble to make.
That is fabulous. Okay, we have heard a lot of my voice talking. Tell us, where did this story come from? How did you come up with this?
Well, about 10 years ago now, I developed really bad anxiety, like really, really bad. So I was having trouble sleeping. I was hearing voices, the whole works. No, not really voices, so much as I was hearing like the doorbell go every time I tried to fall asleep. It was horrible. It was not a fun time. I was working a very, very stressful job at a very stressful time with austerity, making hideous cutbacks and everything. So it was really, well, I was working two stressful jobs. I was a foster carer and worked with homeless teenagers. So you can imagine how,
That sounds stressful.
Oh yeah, I did burn out. And one of the big symptoms I got was insomnia. And the other was, when I did manage to get to sleep, I was having these really vivid nightmares. So I actually decide I'd always wanted to write. I did creative writing when I was at university, and I always planned to, but I kept doing that thing where you just postpone, postpone, postpone. I've got to have the perfect space. I've got to have the perfect thing. I've got to write the perfect literary masterpiece,
Yup.
and it just never ever happened. And so I was using all my time and all my energy for other people and not keeping anything for me. And when I got that ill and I had to go to the doctors and I had to get the medication, and I was the one who always helped other people. How could I be ill? How could I feel this? And I spent sort of 24 hours feeling very, very strange, like the world had turned on its head, that I was the one with this illness. And then I thought, no, I'm going to grasp this with both horns. I'm not going to keep it secret. I'm not going to be guilty about it. This has happened. This is who I am now. And so I decided to lean into it. And um, first of all, I told everybody, and I was very open about it, and found that everybody told me back. And it was a real privilege. People would tell me their stories that they felt they'd had to keep secret, but with me, they felt they could tell.
That's wonderful.
And I had all this extra time because insomnia will do that to you. And I knew I had to do something for me. So I decided I wasn't going to wait for the perfect time. I wasn't going to wait for the perfect story. I was just going to sit down and write. And I realized that actually these incredibly vivid nightmares I was having, scenes fitted together and made a loose start of a story. So then I sort of started writing these scenes up. And it was honestly, it was like these characters just like burst into my brain. And they took over. And it
That's
didn't really
fabulous.
matter what I'd thought was going to happen in the story. They were doing their own thing. And so yeah, it was very much a healing process. Um, and it was reattaching to that thing that I'd loved so much before. And yeah, so the concept came from nightmares. Bless her, my poor mother. I had not warned her that there's a vampire story because the first few chapters are getting to know Ray and Layla. And at this point, I hadn't put the prologue on to give people the warning that it's about vampires. So I just gave it to her to read, and she's just reading what she thinks is like a woman's fiction of these two friends rediscovering themselves after these terrible marriages, and then suddenly boom,
It's like, ah!
and then bless her, they gave her nightmares, and my mum never normally dreams, so she was really quite shocked. So
Wow.
I think I did write quite vividly. But yeah, that's where the inspiration came from. And then I wanted to keep it as natural as possible. So I've talked about it being the virus. It sort of goes right back to the very beginning DNA and goes down all the paths and finds the good bits. So some vampires have got bits that are amphibians, some are like a reptile, all different things and skills and strengths and powers. And that's why the two girls are pretty ones. So they've got the ability to do the glamour, which is they can really turn up the heat, as it were. Um, and then others have got all different gifts like hypnosis gifts and things like that. But all of them are stronger than humans, faster. They're very muscular. Um, and yeah, obviously they need blood, but they don't have to. They don't have to kill humans. They can take blood as long as they don't get the saliva or any form of the virus into the human and turn them. They can just take blood. So hospital blood is absolutely fine. And Ray finds out later they can just feed on animals. They don't feel great, they feel always slightly deprived, but they can get by. So it's this huge wrestling thing for her of trying to fit in with vampires because all of her life as a human, she never really fit in. So she'd really like to fit in with this new group of people, but it's not going well for her. Also, she really wants to retain her moral goodness, her
Right.
humanity, as it were. So yeah,
Right, right.
sort of the story, the core of. I'm not telling you what actually happens because, the 3 books, a lot happens.
Okay, so I before we ramp up here, I have 5 questions that I ask everybody, just to get sort of a baseline of everyone that I talk to. The first one is, what was your personal entry point into the vampire genre?
I think it was Anne Rice, or it might have been the film Vamp.
The film
I think,
Vamp.
yeah,
Okay, with Grace Jones.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. It was Vamp and Lost Boys and Fright Night. They were like massively favorite films of mine as a teenager. And I
That
was
is
reading Anne
fantastic.
Jones and Interview Vampire, Anne Rice, sorry, not Anne Jones, Anne Rice, and Interview Vampire, and Poppy's Head Bright as
Right,
well.
right,
Yeah,
right.
I
Oh,
was
that's
really
excellent.
lucky to have a very rich youth in terms of vampire and vampire stories. And then that is one of the motivations for why I decided to write vampires, because it felt like there wasn't really anything for my age group. It was like everything that was being written now was aimed at teenagers.
That's a very
Uh,
good point.
and and they were all a bit too perfect.
Gotcha.
My characters really just aren't perfect at all, and that's how I prefer reading it. So yeah,
Gotcha. Had to get in there and break some stuff.
yeah, quite often myself.
That's excellent. Okay. So question number 2: what is your favorite thing to eat for breakfast?
Breakfast. I'm not really a breakfast eater. I like black coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, black coffee with a little drop of vanilla in there, and that I'm happy. Yeah.
Okay. Good answer. Question number 3: do you have any sorts of habits or superstitions while you write?
I like listening to music. I find my brain works better, but it's only a very select type of music that I can listen to. And it's not even like I can say I can listen to all folk or I can listen to all country, or it's just a select group of songs. So I'll be doing something and I'll hear a song and I'm like, oh, well, that needs to go on my playlist. And I'll pop it on my list. So I've actually got a big Spotify playlist called Darkly Dreaming. If anybody wants to go on Spotify and look for it, you can hear the kind of music that
That's
inspires me and
lovely.
on when I'm writing. And it's a lot of them are like there'll be a song that suits a particular character, and whenever I hear it, I can immediately sort of picture it's like that song, "Oh You Beautiful Thing, You Terrible Thing." That's Ray. So
Excellent.
yeah,
That's great. I love the fact that like any one of us could go and listen to your essentially your mixtape
yeah,
of inspirational
yeah.
music. That's awesome. Okay, question number 4: if you could talk to any other vampire creator and ask them a question, who would it be? What would you ask them?
Well, I was very lucky that I was on Facebook before Anne Rice died and followed it. I did ask her some bits and pieces, and she would answer because she was such a lovely woman. She would chat with people and answer questions and things. So yeah, there was it was always nice to follow her. So yeah, that I mean, it would have been like a dream come true to have got to actually meet her and talk to her face to face. But yeah, that would be my number one. I also enjoy Discovery of Witches. I find they're good stories. So
Okay.
it'd be nice to sort of chat with Deborah Harkness. I think she and I could have lots to talk about.
Gotcha. All right. Well, final question then, and that is, which actor was your Dracula?
Um, I don't know his name. Did you watch the BBC version of Dracula?
Oh yeah, the one that came out a couple years ago. Clyce Bang is the name of that
Oh
actor.
my God, he was superb.
He was really good.
So creepy because at first he appears like quite sensual and sexy, and then the more you watch it, the more you realize no, there's something just really off kilter with him, and he's
Yeah.
psychopathic and scary. I loved that version of Dracula. The best. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I remember just like watching that series and just feel like all of my muscles were always so tense because I'm like, he's going to kill this person that he's talking to right now. Like there's no he's going to kill everyone he comes across. And he pretty much did. And it was just a matter of like waiting to see how it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely it was so well made and so well told. Loved it.
Excellent. Excellent. It's a good answer, Chloe. Uh, okay, so if there are people who want to find you online, how would they go about doing that?
You can search for Darkly Dreaming. I've got a page of Darkly Dreaming, and if you search for Chloe Hammond, there is a Facebook page. Oh, sorry, Darkly Dreaming pages on Facebook, and the Chloe Hammond page is on Facebook. And me as an individual, I'm also on Facebook as Chloe Hammond, and more than happy to accept friend requests as long as you're not going to try and sell me dodgy things or take over my I'm very
Only
friendly.
really
I've
nice
got to be a
things,
real
nothing
person.
dodgy.
I've got a website which is www.chloehammondauthor.com. The story that won the Golden Stake Award, The
Right,
Caretakers.
right, right.
Um, a, podcast is recording that as a story with like voice actors and everything.
Oh,
So
lovely.
I want to be able to have that on the website and all those sorts of things. So yeah, there's lots going on. I'm on Twitter, Chloe Hammond author or Chloe Hammond 111, and I'm also on Threads, Chloe Hammond author, and on Instagram. But I've got to be honest, I don't really go on Instagram much because I just don't really understand it because I'm old.
That's quite all right. There are definitely a couple of the social media platforms where I'm like, I don't get this. I don't know
TikTok,
who this
I'm
is
just
for.
like no.
Yeah, my niece sends me a lot of video montages of hot dudes on TikTok. As far as I know, that's all that's on TikTok. But it's got to
People
go
doing
somewhere.
strange dances and things. I think there is actually a whole book section, and I really should be responsible and go and research it and stuff. But I've got the choice. I can either do lots of social media or I can do writing. I don't have
I
time for
think
both.
you've picked the right one.
Facebook, I find quite natural and fun. So come and find me on there. It's where I spend most of my free time on social media.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Chloe, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. Thank you for listening to me reading your book. I hope I got the characters' voices okay.
You did. It was really enjoyable, actually.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. And please, by all means, head on over to Amazon and pick up a copy yourself of Darkly Dreaming and its sequel.
Because Darkly Dreaming is book one and Darkly Dancing is book two.
Darkly Dancing is book two. And what is book three going to be called?
That is Darkly Dazzling.
Ooh, all right. This is fantastic. Okay, well, there you go, guys. Chloe, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed myself.